Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LA Rams Central. This is the 23rd episode. It's Thursday night again. I'm filming this without seeing the game. I think the last I saw, Miami was up 7-3. That's okay. I'll do my predictions anyway without knowing the result. Going to cover quite a bit on the show. I told you guys that I was going to go back and talk about the Rams' record against opponents as they played them when they were both the LA Rams, then just the St. Louis Rams, and then the record is both. I don't have the information with Tampa. I will do Seattle and San Fran when we play them again. Next week, when I go into the game against Buffalo, I will have it for both Buffalo and Tampa, just in case you're interested. I think it's a pretty interesting distinction. Segment's pretty simple. At the top, we're going to talk about the Rams. Then we're going to go into the other games that were played. Then we're going to do my predictions for next week. And then we're going to cover the Ram game in detail against Arizona. Lost a few subscribers, about 4 total. That always saddens me when I see it. But you know what, guys? As I've always said before, and usually with subscribers like in this case, I don't know why they left. Some people probably get tired of me ragging. Some people probably get just bored, and I get that. But if you like the show, promote it, keep talking it up, try to get other people to watch it. And certainly for those that have been out there for a while and have followed me from the first episode, thank you so much. It's always an honor to be able to bring to you guys a different view of professional football and give you your football kick as you would for the upcoming week. Primetime comes once a week, and so do I. So, or rather not primetime, but primetime too, but the pregame stuff that they do. So, there's a few things I want to mention. First of all, I had some people ask me about this game against Tampa Bay, and I think my response is a little bit surprising. I actually think this game against Tampa Bay was a better win than last week at home against Seattle. From a pure football standpoint, from a historical standpoint, nothing will ever match the victory in the LA Coliseum against the Seahawks, at least not until we win the Super Bowl as the LA Rams. That is a crowning jewel moment in Ram history, and I'm not comparing this win to that at all because they're different animals. But from a pure football standpoint, I felt this game was better. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, hey, wait a minute, Anthony. Offense over defense? I mean, where was the defense? Somebody had asked me, I thought, when did we become a bend and break defense, or bend but not break defense, I think is what he meant, although I don't have the user's name here that commented. I think he was frustrated that they were giving up so many points that we're calling it a bend and break defense. Let me explain a couple things here. First of all, a lot of good things happened in that game. We got Gurley going again. Keenum proved that he can do well against certain teams. He did well against Tampa last year, and he repeated that performance this week. The offensive line looked a lot better, and I know I ragged on Havenstein a lot. Somebody commented that I said his name wrong, and I'm sorry. As I commented, I'll remember his name when he's a better ball player, and Havenstein was a better ball player this week, so there you have it. Still, there's some things I didn't like, but let me just get into let me get into that first so I can really get into the crux of why this was such a good win for the Rams. I didn't like the fact that we still couldn't convert on 3rd and short a lot of the time. Our 3rd down percentage is tremendously better, and I'm okay with that. You know, you're not going to go from terrible to great overnight. It takes time. So I'm okay with the progression on the 3rd down conversions. But when you have Todd Gurley in the backfield, you've got to convert 3rd and 1. And it's getting to the point where the offensive coordinator has no confidence to run the ball on 3rd and 1, and he's starting to throw. So now we're taking the ball out of our best players' hands, and we're putting it in our least talented players' hands in Case Keenum, and it's costly. We've got to block better for Gurley so that confidence in the run game kicks in. So 3rd and 1, we make a statement run. We did do that early in the game with a 1-yard touchdown run by Gurley, I believe it was. And that was a big conversion. And that showed Boris was basically saying, I think, from a coordinator standpoint, okay, you guys have sucked terribly all season long in this category. You're either going to punch it in or we're going to lose this game. I'm going to put my trust in you one last time. Don't make it the wrong decision. And the line didn't. across the board. They all blocked well, and Gurley made a great individual effort. He scores a touchdown, and the game was on. I didn't like the third down conversion. I know a lot of people are probably frustrated with the fact that we gave up so many points, and of course I'd love to I would have loved to have won that game 32-7 or 37-7, like the Cardinals beat them earlier. But you're not going to keep that quarterback down that long. You knew he was going to have a rebound game. You know your secondary is woefully weak, and you still played good enough to win the game in the secondary. They played excellent at the linebacker position, and they played even better on the D-line position. Quinn showed up. Donald showed up. We had some appearances from Brockers, which I liked the pressure that he got up front. And, we got contributing parts from all places, and, of course, the Westbrook fumble recovery for a touchdown. All in all, it was fantastic. All in all, I liked what I saw. There's a few things we have to do better on defense, obviously, and secondary is a concern. Hill, I like what I'm seeing from Hill. Joyner's looking great. Johnson's looking better each week, but I still think there's obvious room for improvement. I do, however, really like what I'm seeing as this linebacking core starts to gel a little bit. Now, there were a lot of missed tackles from the linebackers, but I think there were more from the secondary if you actually watch that game. If you go back and watch it, you'll notice a lot more missed tackles from the secondary than the linebackers, which created more problems. But when you're playing a quarterback that mobile, when you're playing against receivers that big and that good, and you're playing against an offensive line that was embarrassed the week before, to still show up and knock them down, it's big. The offense scored, the defense stopped them, and let's go to the final series, guys. When they had to make the plays, they made the plays on defense, and sometimes, I remember a Pittsburgh Steeler game in the 70s, and then we're talking the steel curtain defense here, okay? I remember a Steeler game in the 70s against, I want to say at the time it was, I'd have to go back and look, but it was some NFC North or Central in this case, some NFC Central team that really didn't have a lot of weapons offensively, and they put up like 28 points on them, which, was back then, that was a lot by any standard. So they still won the game, but people, I'm sure at the time, were like, what's going on? That was a terrible defensive performance. And it was, to their standard. But a championship defense has these moments, and you have a big game against Seattle you needed to win, and you did. And then to come back on the road against an embarrassed and angry football team and find a way to win. Guys, we haven't been 2-1 since 2006. We haven't been 2-1 since 2006. That's a big win. And we're in first place. We're in first place for the first time, and I don't even remember how long at this point. It's been that long. So we're in good position. We've got some momentum. So all in all, I actually think this win was a better win because you were coming off a victory against a weaker opponent that you traditionally stumble against and end up going back under 500. You were on the road against a mobile quarterback, good wide receivers, better wide receivers than your DBs, and you beat them. With the weather delay. Let's not forget the freaking weather delay, right? I don't know about you guys, but for 58 minutes, I was this close to having a cardiac arrest waiting for it to come back. Part of me was thinking they were going to blow it, and part of me was hoping they wouldn't blow it, and the most of me was just losing my mind waiting for this friggin' weather delay to end. And when it finally did, man, you'd think the Rams won the Super Bowl when they won that game the way I reacted. It was ridiculous for a Week 3 game. Way too involved. But I think the hold-up had a lot to do with that build-up. But overall, I was very pleased with what I saw from the LA Rams football team. Because they played good on defense when they had to. They held them the field goals when they needed to, with the exception of that one ridiculous throw. I don't know how we don't knock that down or intercept it. It's like guys were standing around watching it. And one guy decided to go get it. But other than that, I felt like the Rams played well defensively. Not great and not to their standard, but they played good enough to win, and they played well when they had to, especially at the end of the game. Offensively, man, they finally showed up. But Gurley's got to do better than, 80-something yards rushing? I mean, we've got to get him going. And this is going to have to be the week to do it because Arizona is not good against the run. But I'll get to that later. So, to wrap up segment 1, guys, I'm actually very pleased with this win. It's an important win because now you've established not momentum. You don't have momentum yet, but you have confidence. And confidence leads to momentum. And momentum leads to more confidence. And more confidence leads to more momentum. And more momentum leads to a division title. And then the confidence of doing well in the postseason can lead to so much more. Guys, I remind everyone, we went to the Super Bowl with a 9-7 football team. No one thought that was going to happen. We won a Super Bowl with a 13-3 team the year before we were 4-12. No one saw it coming. We know this team is talented. Now they're starting to play it, so it's big. It's a big win for a lot of different reasons. You followed up the Seattle win with a must win, and they did. Now they have another must win because you got to look at this logically now. You take care of business against Arizona. You've got Buffalo going to that game. You got Detroit in Detroit. You've got New York in London, and then you've got a bye week to get ready for Carolina. So outside of the New York game, I mean, you're talking 5-1 going into New York, maybe 5-2 going into the bye week. So there's opportunity to be had here, and to go 2-1 in the division this early, big, really, really big. So this game is even bigger than the last two, but we'll see what happens. That'll wrap up segment 1. Segment 2 coming right up. All right, guys, segment 2. First of all, boy, was I wrong on the New England game. I got nothing. I didn't think Houston, with that football team, was going to go into a Patriot team with their third-string quarterback and no Gronk and lose. And I don't think New England's defense is that good, but they won. So I was wrong on that one. You're going to hear that a lot. Buffalo against Arizona. The Bills looked better. I think that was the one that shocked everyone. Thank you, Buffalo. You put the Rams in first place. I didn't see that game coming. It came out of nowhere. And kudos to Buffalo and LaShawn McCoy because he tore up the Cardinals' defense for over 100 yards rushing. I believe it was 117 and 2 tutties, and I'm not even counting his yardage through the air. So big, big game. The WTF moment of the week is Minnesota's 22-10 win over Carolina. I told you guys Carolina wasn't going to make the playoffs. And if you needed proof, how about them losing 22-10 to a football team with no center, no guard, no quarterback, and no tailback? That's a bad loss at home to what I think is going to end up being a bad football team. I know you Vikings, bad, we're 3-0. Keep talking crap, dude. I am going to keep talking crap because I don't buy this. You beat a bad Tennessee Titans football team, and they're better. Don't get me wrong. They are a better team, but they're still bad. You beat Green Bay in your home opener where you had all the momentum and Aaron Rodgers never showed up to play. And then you went in and you beat a bad Carolina football team. We'll see how you do against the Giants at home next week. I think that's going to be a better measurement. And maybe the dial will move a little bit on them because my dial's moved a little bit on a couple of teams. One of those teams is Denver. A 29-17 win over Cincinnati was big because I think the Bengals are going to be a good football team. I know I'm making the playoffs. I didn't, but I had them competing for a playoff spot. And Denver went in, and they didn't just punch them in the mouth. They took their lunch money, they walked them to the line, said, "Buy my lunch, punk," and then ate it in front of their face. Like, that's what they did. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like 29-17, nobody talking about my Bengals. I'm not. I like the Bengals. But that was a game you should have rolled. And by roll, with a Denver defense that good, I'm talking 14 points, 10 points. It's not really a rolling. But you should have beaten them by that score, not them beating you. And they just defensively had no answer for Simeon, and they got beat by a good defense and a half football team. But Denver's moved the dial on me now because this was a good opponent that they shouldn't have beaten if they were not a good football team. I like what I saw from Denver. I was impressed, and we'll see if that continues because so far the Broncos are making me eat crow. And Trevor Siemian, he's got a lot of football left. But that's a big game for him, and we'll see if that momentum continues. Is it just me, guys, or do the Green Bay Packers look like garbage? I know they beat Detroit 34-27, but guys, it was 31-3 at one point. 31-3, and they only beat them 34-27. That means that the Lions outscored them 24-3 the rest of the game. You cannot be a championship caliber football team and play like they have for the last 3 weeks. I'm not impressed with Green Bay. That is not a good win. And if they don't get their stuff together, 9-7 may win that division. Because Detroit's not a good football team, and they just look bad in most of the second half against them. Maybe there was disinterest there, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Baltimore, Jacksonville. We believe as yet that Jacksonville's a little overrated. This is why I didn't have them going to the playoffs, guys. I felt like they'd be an improved football team, but you lose to the Ravens at home. The Ravens, they're not good. They're not a good football team. I'm talking about the Jaguars. I think the Ravens are a good football team. I think Baltimore is going to make the playoffs by virtue of their schedule and by virtue of staying healthy and then being able to figure it out and get that momentum we talked about and confidence with these wins. That's a big win against Jacksonville because it's on the road against a team that a lot of people think is going to be a wild card team. Well, I think Jacksonville proved they're probably going to be a top 5 pick again this year. And Baltimore just, they beat them when they had to, and they did what they had to do to win that game. Miami against Cleveland, 2 bad football teams. 2 bad football teams. I don't know of anybody that really looked at this game and thought, I mean, it was a fun game to watch if you watched it. I don't like the new stadium. It looks weird. Hard Rock Stadium. Cleveland should have won that game. Kessler played well. I don't like these guys that turn around and say that this guy sucks before he's played a game, and then he plays a good game like Kessler did, and they're like, making excuses why, he performed somewhat well, or they don't even talk about it. They just gloss over it. I thought Kessler played well. I really thought Kessler played well, and I felt like they should have won that game. The Washington Redskins against the New York Football Giants. Wow. What a game. If you guys didn't watch that game, New York held a 21-3 lead at one point. Okay? Washington came roaring back in their old 80s unis. They had the red pants with the white jerseys. Sweet to watch. It was so fun. They threw a little bit of the away throwbacks right there. It was awesome. The game itself was just a great game. It came down to the end. Everyone's giving Eli Manning crap about the 2 picks. Look, the Sua Cravens pick was unbelievable. He was covering the in route, or the out route. He saw the in route coming. He broke off his guy, made a diving interception on the deep hook. Incredible play. Great pick. Washington looked great in that game, and I like what I'm seeing from that football team last week. But there's a lot to do and a lot to go. The New York Giants are good. I think they're going to be good this year. I think they've proven that already. This is a game that was tough to win, but they did, and they didn't, but they played well enough to win. All right, so I thought the Redskins in that game played great. I think the Giants are a good football team. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it was more of an important game for the Redskins. It was important for the Giants to put them away, but in the end, I don't think it's going to affect the Giants nearly as much as it would have affected the Redskins in defeat, and I think the Giants know that. And when they go back to Washington later in the year, it might even pull off the victory. But Sua Cravens made a great pick, and I don't want to take it away from him because it came off his guy to make the play. The other games, Tennessee against Oakland, that was just an old-fashioned football game. The Titans have proven to be a good defense. Not a great defense, but a good defense, and they're playing smart and they're playing hard. And against a really loaded Oakland Raider football team, they held them. But they couldn't hold them too low because the offense just couldn't score enough points. And the Raiders ended up winning the game 17-10 in pretty impressive fashion. The 49ers, for the second week in a row, got blown out. No one's surprised. They're not a good football team. Blaine Gabbert or Colin Kaepernick. And Seattle beat them 37-18. I think the Seahawks, if they didn't win this game, they would have been in a lot of trouble. Forget the 0-3 record. Or the 1-2 record, because that would have put them in trouble. But to lose the 49ers and the Rams in back-to-back weeks would have really put them in a bad position division-wise. here's the other team I'm a believer in, guys, and you know how much I smashed this team in the offseason. I believe in the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win this division. And I think Philadelphia could very well win a playoff game to boot. Philly looks good. They beat a football team that many people, myself included, think is going to be a good football team in the AFC. And they pounded them to paste 34-3. No one saw that coming. If you're an Eagles fan, you got to be soaring high right now. Kudos to you. Enjoy the bye week because they dominated. Another one I didn't see coming was Indianapolis. I didn't think they were going to be able to hold the Chargers under 30. And I knew the Chargers could hold them under 30, and I thought that was going to be the difference. It turned out not to be the case. The Colts beat them 26-22. They lit them up. They played well, and they looked phenomenal. The meltdown that was the New York Jets' 24-3 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, guys, I told you the Bills and the Jets are garbage. Are you believers yet? This was a terrible game by a terrible team against a good football team with a strong defense. And when they collided, the Jets were dismantled. 24-3 game for Kansas City. It shouldn't have been that close. But kudos to Kansas City for winning a game they should have won. And if you're a Jets fan, get ready. You're going to be grounded for the year, I think. Dallas against Chicago in Dallas. 31-17 is a lot closer than I think Cowboy fans wanted to see. But they did dominate that game. If you watch that Sunday night game, it wasn't even close. Dallas had control all the way through, and it didn't really change much. It was a well-played football game by Dak Prescott. Ezekiel Elliott had a better day, and ultimately the Bears are that bad. Like, they're a bad football team. So I don't know if there's light at the end of the tunnel if you are a Bears fan, because it looks pretty bleak at the moment. The Monday night game, I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch. Atlanta did win. I know that Matt Ryan had another great game. I told you guys Atlanta was Atlanta and New Orleans. I thought were going to duke it out for the division. Clearly, New Orleans is not as good as I thought they were, but clearly Atlanta is. So, 50-50, I got to get some credit there. There's a lot of football left in Atlanta, but those are two big wins on the road, mind you, as they come home here in the next week. So we'll see what happens in Week 4, but Week 3, Atlanta looks like they're starting to make their way to being the real deal. I will cover Week 4 in the next segment, and we will wrap up the show. Coming up. All right, segment 3, the final segment, Week 4. I'm going to have a couple things that we're going to go over here in a little bit, but let me just say it was 7-3 last I saw, so I don't know what the score is, but the Dolphins were winning, so I don't know if I'm going to be wrong again or not, but I'm going to start with that game. I actually think the Bengals are going to win. I think Cincinnati needs to have a big bounce-back game after playing Denver, and I think they will. I think the Bengals, A.J. Green, should have a really good game against that Miami secondary, and I think all in all, Andy Dalton is going to be out to prove that once and for all that the primetime thing is not a thing. So I look for Miami to play. They play tough from what I saw. I just don't know. This isn't the Cleveland Browns. So I have written down here my prediction for the game was Bengals by 2 touchdowns. Okay. We'll see if Miami can hold on to that. But I got the Bengals winning by 2 touchdowns. And so far, I'm dead wrong. So we'll just leave it at that, and we'll see if I end up being right. The Indianapolis Colts against the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. Not waking up early to watch that game. I am going against Andy Luck in my fantasy football team, but in my fantasy league, but that's okay. Andy Dalton's going to light them up. Jacksonville is going to. They always play well in London, though. I hate picking against them in London, and I swear, to goodness sakes, if they win this game in London, I'm done. I'm picking Jacksonville every time they're in London from here on out. I don't care if they're playing the friggin' Patriots. Indy should beat them. They're a better team. We'll see if that holds true in London. Carolina at Atlanta. I look for the Falcons to roll in this one. 24-10. 24-13 kind of thing. The Falcons have a really good running game. Matt Ryan's really coming into his own, and I like their coach. I liked him in Seattle when he was a D coordinator. He's gone to Atlanta, and he's done well. He's done well overall. I know last year they fell off the wagon, but you guys realize the Falcons were in the wild card race up until the very end last year, right? I think it was like week 14 is when they were finally eliminated. So I see Atlanta having a strong start again this year, and I think part of that strong start is going to be a victory over Carolina. Oakland and Baltimore. In my opinion, this is the first real opponent the Baltimore Ravens are getting. And I think with that being said, I think Oakland in Baltimore is going to pull off the victory. I think the Raiders have too many weapons. I think their defense is slowly getting better. They played really well last week against a good running team. I like the Oakland Raiders and what they bring to the table offensively, and I think they can do enough on defense to hold a not-so-powerful, potent Baltimore Raven football team. So I foresee the Ravens winning that one. Detroit at Chicago, the Toilet Bowl game. This is going to be brutal to watch if you're a Bears fan. It's going to be brutal to watch, I think, either way. I'm going to go with Chicago because they're home. I won't be surprised if Detroit beats them by 30. I won't be surprised if Chicago wins by 8. I mean, it's one of those games. So we'll see how it unfolds, but it's in Chicago. That's the only reason I'm giving the edge to the Bears. I don't think either one of these football teams are very good, and I think they got a long way to go. Tennessee at Houston. Oh, man. If anybody needs a bigger bounce-back week this week than Houston, I need to know who it is. And you Steeler fans might be saying you do, but Houston, I mean, you weren't supposed to lose that game either, but you scored, right? You lost by 31. They lost by 27. So I think both those teams need a bounce-back week this week for sure. But, man, Houston's home. They got to make them pay. And it's a division game to boot. This is a must-win game for Houston. Not in a traditional sense, but in a confident sense. You've got to utilize Will Fuller. You've got to utilize your running game. You got to get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, and Brock needs to play well. If those things happen, Houston runs away. No J.J. Watt. He's on IR. He's on the due-to-return list, but he's still out for a while. So Houston's defense really needs to step it up and prove that J.J. Watt is a major part of that, but he isn't the only part of that. Buffalo at New England, I'm done picking against the Patriots. New England wins. I don't care if a broomstick and a helmet is under center. They're going to find a way to win the football game. New England beats Buffalo in New England. I think Shady McCoy gets shut down, and I think the Patriots find a way to win because they always freaking do under Bill Belichick. Seattle at New York. Seattle, you better win this one. This is a bad football team. New York needs a bounce-back game, I guess, if you were good. I don't see them being good, and I don't see them having a snowball's chance in Hades of bouncing back and beating this Seattle Seahawks football team. I think Seattle goes to 3-1, and it's going to be a dogfight down the end with the Seahawks for this division. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. Cleveland at Washington. Nobody has a better opportunity to go 2-2 than the Washington Redskins. They are playing the worst team in the National Football League, and it's not even close. Washington should win that thing by 10, 15, 20 points. Maybe Cleveland puts up a show, but Washington should and probably will win that game rather handily. Denver and Tampa. The Bucs can score against a good defense. Can Denver score as many? I told you I'm starting to believe in Denver, but I'm actually going to surprise some people. My upset pick of the week this week is actually Tampa Bay over Denver. Now, you Bronco fans, let me explain. I don't actually think when I do an upset pick of the week that the team that I'm picking against is going to lose. I think you have a very good football team, and I think you've proven that. And I think you're going to be a playoff team. At this point, I have no reason to doubt you're a playoff team. I just think this is a game that could catch you by surprise. And I think Tampa Bay could score enough points. I think they're home. I think they're smarting from back-to-back losses. And I expect Jameis Winston to have a big day. Against that Denver defense, a big day is like 225 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. But I think the running game might get sneak in there a little bit. I don't know. It's a gut feel. There's no logical reason that Denver should lose this game. But that's what an upset pick of the week is, right? So I think Tampa wins in an upset. And I don't think it's going to be by much. New Orleans at San Diego. The Saints got to win a game before I pick them. They got to prove to me that they can win a game. San Diego's looked good all season long. They've just not looked good on the win-loss record. I'm going to go San Diego at home. Dallas at San Francisco, it won't even be close. Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are going to roll all over San Fran and get themselves to 2-1 or 3-1. And they're going to look good doing it. San Francisco will probably start Kaepernick in another week and try their luck that way. But Dallas should have no issue in this game. Now, I'm actually so excited for the Sunday night game. You've got two 2-1 ball clubs going at it. You've got Kansas City with an opportunity saying, hey, we beat those guys over there, and we might be thinking a first-round bye. We might be thinking a chance to win the division. Not that they're in the same division, but that it'll give us a leg up in the division in conference record. And if we could beat them, we could beat anybody, kind of confidence booster. So Kansas City going into Pitt's an exciting game, and I think Pitt's looking at this like, no way. No way, not after what happened last week in Philly. We are not coming home and losing 2 straight games in the state of Pittsburgh. In the state of Philadelphia. So I think Pittsburgh's going to win, but I think this is going to be like a 27-24, 21-27, maybe even an overtime game. I cannot wait for this game. I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I'm recording it, and I'm going to be glued to it, and I'm going to add it to my collection because I think it's going to be that good of a game. I like both of these teams a lot this year, and I think it's going to be just flat-out fun to watch. So I got Pittsburgh by 3 or 6, and it could be an overtime game. It'll be a fun game. New York at Minnesota. I think the Giants are going to win this game. Minnesota does not have their front 3, center and 2 guards. They don't have their running back. And Bradford, no way is Bradford the real deal, and no way is he going to lead anybody to the postseason. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, and I think this is the week it's going to. I think the Giants drop the hammer on Minnesota, and they start shutting people up. I told you, Viking fans, I saw 4, maybe 5 wins. You've got 3. I only see 2 more coming down the pike, and that's against Detroit. So, prove me wrong this week. Make me eat crow. Won't be the first. I've done it quite a bit so far in these shows. But you just don't see how the Giants lose to such a depleted offensive football team with all the movement and all the improvement they made on defense. This should be and probably will be a Giants victory. I'm thinking 10, 14-point type of game. New York wins. I got 22-17 as the final score because in my pool that we do, we pick the final score. Now, I want to wrap up the show with the Ram game. Final part of this final segment. So, against the Arizona Cardinals when they were the Los Angeles Rams before they went to St. Louis in that hot mess, their record against the Cardinals was 25-19-2. We always had a hard time with them, but we had a winning record. In St. Louis, we were 12-18. It always happens that way. We had a winning record against the opponent going into St. Louis, and we left St. Louis with either a tie or a losing overall record. Our overall total record against the Arizona Cardinals is 37-37-2. That is going to be 38-37-2 after this week, and let me tell you why. The Cardinals can't protect the quarterback. The Rams are pissed that they don't have sacks. Aaron Donald is livid he's not getting to the quarterback, according to Brockers on the Rams website. I think the Rams are hungry. They see an opportunity, and they've got some confidence now, and I think they're going to start to build momentum now. This is a game they know very well if they win, they come back to L.A. in front of a packed house against Buffalo. So this is one of those opportunities I don't see the Rams letting slip through their fingers. This is a football team that if they play the right kind of defense, which is just their consistent defense, if they can run the ball, and this is the thing I was going to say about the Cardinals. The Cardinals are woeful against the run, guys. They're terrible. If this offensive line is as good as some of you Ram fans are yelling at me about, this is the week to show it. And I think they will. I think Todd Gurley gets 125 yards rushing. I think he scores 2 touchdowns. I think that Case Keenum probably has a pick, but I think he has a touchdown to boot. I think he's going to be around 190 to 210 yards passing. And I think, once again, the defense is going to rise up to the occasion and create some turnovers and some scoring opportunities. Greg the Leg shows up, and the Rams go to 3-1. I'm going to even give you a score on this one. I've been doing this all the last couple of weeks. I think the Rams beat the Cardinals by the score of 24-20. I think Greg the Leg gets a field goal and 3 extra points, and I think that defense creates turnovers. Todd Gurley's 2 touchdowns and the 1 passing touchdown, 24-20 Rams. That's what I think the final score is going to be. Now, in order for that to happen, they've got to run the ball, which is something the Cardinals have proven they cannot stop, even against Buffalo. And they've got to play good defense because those receivers are good. We don't have anybody that can cover John Brown. So we better stick to him with 2 people and take our chances with Larry Fitzgerald underneath with a linebacker and then another trailing corner and try to hit him as he catches the ball or hit him right after he catches the ball and he starts going upfield. We can't let Larry kill us, but we've got to really pay attention to downtown Brown in John Brown here in Arizona because he'll kill you. He'll kill you. But the opportunity's there. I want to see the Rams play Higbee, but what I really want to see is I want to see if he's healthy. I want to see more time from Hill. And I don't know, so if you guys know, comment down here, but is Spruce back from his injury yet? Like, I want to know that because I know Spruce got hurt against Dallas, and I haven't seen much of him since. They kept him, so it'd be nice to see him play and actually get on the field and see if he's able to contribute because I think he can really help the passing game. We'll wait and see what happens, but I think the Rams are going to win. I think they're going to be 3-1, and we'll start talking Buffalo and potentially 4-1 next week. That's it for LA Rams Central. I hope you enjoyed it, and go Rams!